Mall of America. For more than 30 years, it has been a retail leader and an international destination, and it remains the largest mall in the U.S. Not to mention, it welcomes millions of guests from around the world. It's huge, but it's also so much more. In this podcast, you're going to hear the real stories of how it started and why it continues to thrive. You'll hear about challenges we faced along the way and what you can learn from them. We will feature guests and experts from all walks of life and business, and along the way, you'll laugh, learn, and maybe even change the way you look at things. So if you're a fan of the mall, a brand new visitor, an entrepreneur, or a dreamer, prepare to dive deep into so much more. This podcast is presented by the Bloomington Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Welcome to So Much More. It's good to have you back again. My name is Dan Jasper here at Mall of America. This is a Mall of America podcast conversation, and they're already laughing. My guests are already laughing. I can't wait for this conversation. You are going to love it. With me, I have two very special guests. I have Will Bernhjelm. Will is our Vice President of Security at Mall of America. He has a long history, more than 20 years here at the mall, long storied history, and he's going to tell us part of his journey. And we have Kenny McDonough. I want to use an accent so bad, and he told me I couldn't make fun of it. Kenny's been with us 13 years, and he leads our K9 unit here at Mall of America. He spent his entire life around dogs. They have some great stories to share. We're excited to have this conversation, and let's get started with So Much More. Hey, guys, how are you?
Good, Dan. How are you?
Good. Kenny?
Good.
Are you going to laugh the entire show?
I'm going to laugh the entire show.
And I'm good with that, actually, right? Today is a serious topic, right? It's something that we take very seriously at Mall of America. We always have, but we're trying to try even harder these days to tell our story behind security and how we keep this building safe. And so even though it's a serious topic, I know there's a lot of fun and a lot of hard work that goes into this. To start with, Will, can you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got started at Mall of America, and even before that, please?
Sure. So my dad was a law enforcement officer for over 40 years, and so when I graduated high school, my goal at the time was to follow in his footsteps and to be a police officer. So I went to college to be a police officer. When I was in college, I joined the Minnesota Army National Guard and actually ended up at the mall just to get some more experience. At the time, law enforcement was a super competitive market, and I came here to get more experience in order to further my career aspirations. So I started as a patrol officer in 2002, and through the years, I kind of just worked my way up through the department, held a bunch of different roles from patrol officer to training supervisor to patrol captain to director to my current role as vice president.
Awesome. And before we move on, I actually want you to tell the story of the day you drove to the mall. Because it's fun. I love it, right?
The day that I showed up here to get an application
Yes,
that day?
yes.
Okay, so I was actually ended up at the mall specifically because of a police job I didn't get. So I was obviously very disappointed. Again, a really competitive market. I was really close. I was in the top two, and I didn't get it. And I was very disappointed. I went back and I talked to the chief about a week later, and I said, "Hey, chief, what can I do to make myself a better applicant?" She said, "Look, you're still pretty young. I think you just need a little more experience." And I said, "Awesome. Where can I get that? Because I'm out of college, loans are due, and
student payments.
I need a job where I can get real experience, like she was talking about, right? I didn't want to sit behind a desk, and I needed real world experience, a full time job." And she's like, "Well, I think you should go out to the mall. They run a tight ship, and I think it'd be good for you." So I literally left her office, drove here, picked up my paper application, and then 6 weeks later it started.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is, I'm not going to ask what city that was, but I will tell you that it was that city's loss in our game.
Indeed.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you're in the top two, that means that you were number two.
Correct.
Just saying, but here you're number one in our hearts.
Okay.
All right? Kenny, tell us a little bit about your journey, what you did before coming to the mall, how you got this job, how you've grown in the position.
So kind of a similar situation. My dad was also a law enforcement officer. He worked for a local PD in the northwest suburbs. He was actually a K9 handler for 33 years. So I kind of grew up around the K9 stuff, and it's been the coolest job ever. I've actually been out here as K9 since 2011, so I'm on my second dog here now. My first dog retired in 2019, and she's still alive. She's still up and kicking. She's just a little heavier than she was when she was working.
As happens to, I'm on my way.
But so I was a handler for a long time, and then I got promoted to our sergeant, and then I was just recently, within the last year, promoted to our lieutenant, who's in charge of our training in our whole unit. So
awesome. So you lead the entire unit here at the mall.
So I'm in charge of our
which is fantastic. We're going to get a little bit later. We're going to get to what that unit does, how you do your training, how it might be growing in the near future. Right? I mean, there's some exciting stuff coming, right?
Yeah, it should be a really fun year for us.
I do have to kind of start this conversation off, too, because with a big thank you to both of you, because Will has made it abundantly clear, and I think Kenny has, too, to some extent, that this isn't their favorite thing to do, right? But they also really understand the importance of talking about how serious we take this topic, right? So thank you, guys. I know it's not your favorite thing to do, but appreciate it so much. Kind of going back, Will, can you tell us a little bit about, because I think some of the lessons you share about how the mall approaches security is really applicable to, we do it unlike anyone else, right? But there's some good lessons for other businesses and other industries as well. But would you explain, give the listeners an idea of how we approach security, all the different areas within the security department?
Sure. So we do have a unique property, but we have a robust department to help protect the property.
Yep.
And our approach has been a layered approach. Security is kind of like slices of Swiss cheese, where every layer has a hole. So, no offense, Kenny, but you're a layer of Swiss cheese.
Very good Swiss cheese.
The worst sandwich cheese.
But so every layer has a hole because there's no such thing as 100% security. It just doesn't exist. But with the more layers we have, the less chance that all of those holes line up at once.
Yep.
Right? And so that's been our approach, right? It's not a straightforward, this is the only thing that works. We have multiple departments and divisions within our department to create as many layers as possible.
Yep.
So like K9, for example, would be a layer. Our patrol officers would be a layer. Our part-time officers who work our parental escort policy on the weekends are another layer. Our behavior detection officers, dispatch, traffic, training unit, all layers within the department.
Yeah, there's a ton of them, and I'm going to ask you to go through and dig a little deeper into each one of them if you would. Sure. But I have to go back to Kenny quick. Kenny, your dad was a canine handler as well?
Yeah, so he worked for Queen Rapids PD up in the northwest suburbs. I think he got his first dog in like 89, 88, something like that. So I was probably 3 or 4 when he first started. And then he never attempted to even get promoted again. He fell in love with the position. And so I grew up around it. So a lot of kids, when they would come back from school and stuff like that, and everyone else in their family went to Disney World, we would end up going somewhere for police dog trials.
I love it.
And I kind of caught the bug when I was really young, and then he started his own company after he retired, and I've been working out there as well. And it's a job like no other. I mean, I say it all the time, but it's the best job here. I mean, outside of having to do like weird podcasts every once in a while.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I'm just saying it's the day is always different.
Tell us a little bit about your canine partner, what your partner's name is, how long you've been partnered, where that canine sleeps.
So I have a 4-year-old Dutch Shepherd Belgian Malinois mix. Her name's Ellie. She actually has a few brothers that work in the Metro. She has one that works for Woodbury PD, and then she has one that works for South St. Paul PD.
Okay.
So she's from a famous little family. I got her when she was 8 weeks old, and I had to wait on a list to get her. She came to work with me from 8 weeks old on, and
wow.
Riding escalators, and because the thing is for dogs, like this environment's kind of overwhelming for a lot of dogs because of just how much stuff there is going on.
Yep.
So what we ended up having to do was, get them younger and younger and kind of develop them into the dogs that we want them to be, because we need them to be hardworking dogs, but we need them to be very, very friendly to people, because sometimes there's little kids who have ice cream cones, and then your dog takes their ice cream cone, and then you have to buy that family a new ice cream cone.
An ice cream cone, I love it.
Which has happened more than once. Both of my dogs have stolen ice cream cones from children. So,
and you have trading cards even.
We do have trading cards. All of our guys have so we have 6 dogs out here right now. We just got 2 new puppies too. So cool. Once they finally are old enough to certify and everything like that, they'll get their own trading card. But so we're looking into other stuff too that we can hand out to kids and stuff like that. I know all our patrol officers have little temporary tattoos and little badges and stuff like that. But
Love
I think
it.
that the trading cards are usually the biggest hit.
They love them, and we're gonna dig a little deeper into your training in a little bit and how your dogs are specialized. But you were telling me something about your previous canine partner out here that had a love for.
Yeah, so my first dog was a Labrador, and anytime that we would be anywhere near popcorn, because obviously people spill popcorn, it's just a common thing that happens, it was pretty much game over for her. It didn't matter what we were doing or what we were trying to do. She had to clean up all the popcorn that she could get her hands on. So it took a long time to try and break her of that habit too, because she came from somewhere where there was no exposure to like outside like human food and stuff like that. So it was a big culture shock for her to see all of the delicious popcorn that was available.
Was there a particular flavor?
I don't know. You know what? She never told me. I kept asking, but she never responded.
I love it.
So,
and we have a number of popcorn places
There
here.
are.
So there is spilled popcorn all over the mall, right?
Yep.
Will, let's dig a little deeper. You have a background in training, and we've always had a good training program here, but you were instrumental in really developing that, along with some of your partners and stuff, but you kind of led the effort. Tell us what inspired you to make an even more robust training program and what that looks like today.
Sure. So as I mentioned, I was part of the Minnesota Army National Guard. I spent 10 years in the Guard as an infantry soldier. I got deployed in 2003 or 4 to Kosovo. When I came back, I was promoted to the training department role, the training instructor role. And I was really super excited about that. I was ready to try something new and learn some new stuff. And then I got deployed again to Iraq for 2 years. So I came back in the fall of 2007. I had been promoted again, and I was the supervisor for the training department at that point. And that allowed me to kind of take a look at our program. Coming off of that experience, that was obviously something that was very life-changing. But it allowed me to take kind of some of those core principles and values of what I learned overseas and apply them to our training department as well as it could apply, right? But what got instilled in me over there was like the training doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Like we did over 450 combat patrols, and every single day we did some level of training. And now it wasn't this long drawn-out thing every single day. It was maybe 10, 15 minutes of, hey, what are you going to do if training, right? But we practice it, excuse me, every single day, over 450 times, right? And I really understood the value of that when I came back, and I understood, and to be fair, our training program at the time was still very good. It was still, I'll say, above industry standard.
Yep.
Even when I went through it was. But it allowed me to maybe inject a little life into it and take out some content that wasn't maybe as applicable, add some new content, and then really redesign our field training program, because it was about a month long, which is really good.
Yep.
But
What's the industry average, do you think, right now?
Industry average is around 40 total hours.
And it was a month long, so it was 4 times as long as industry average, but now?
But now it's a month in the classroom, and it's 8 to 12 weeks with the field training officer.
So 16 weeks, or it could be up to 16 weeks.
Yeah.
That's a lot of investment in time and money and resources. And I know you and your unit, Kenny, you train hard, and right?
So basically, we have the same requirements to get our duty belt and everything like that. We just have an additional 12 weeks of strictly canine training.
So even 12 additional weeks for the canine unit.
So
And I
for
suppose
us to
some
get
of your
somebody
other
new, it
units too,
takes a
right?
while.
Yeah. So our behavior detection officers follow a similar. It's not the same training, obviously, but it's a similar time frame, length.
So theoretically, someone could train for half a year roughly here at Mall of America or close to it, right? A lot of time and effort. Talk to us about behavior detection. What is that unit, and what role do they play here?
Sure. So it's another layer that we have built in. They're solely focused on suspicious behavior, objects, and vehicles. That's their sole focus.
Yep.
They don't go to like lost kid calls like our patrol officers do, or disorderly guests, medicals, things like that. Their sole focus is, again, suspicious behavior, objects, and vehicles.
So what happens when they see something that's suspicious? What do they do? What's their protocol?
So it's up to them to figure out why that person's acting maybe the way they are.
Okay.
Right?
Do you have an example of what that might be?
Yeah. So if somebody is, say, maybe nervous and pacing back and forth, sweating, exhibiting kind of odd behavior, like that's not normal shopper behavior.
Yep.
Right? unless really somebody's concerned about what pair of shoes they're going to buy.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that
There's
before.
a sale
but,
at DSW.
right.
Yeah.
But it's their job to figure out why they're acting that way.
Yeah.
Right? Are they here because they have harmful intent and they're up to something, or is it because that they're here to meet their Tinder date for the first time?
Okay, I love that.
Right?
That does happen at the mall, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
Does.
The Tinder date thing.
Yeah. So it is up to them to go figure out, again, why they're acting that way, and they conduct a short security interview to just have a short conversation with them.
Do they identify themselves when they approach that guest?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. So you train on that constantly. I think a really good lesson for a lot of companies, whether it's in the security field or in other realms, is your advice about do a little training every single day. It can be 15 minutes. Doesn't matter what industry you're in, what role you're in. If you're thinking about what might happen, that's a good thing, right? Kenny, talk to us a little bit about your training. What kind of your dogs are cute, right? They're adorable.
They're super cute, yes.
Tell us about what role they play. Are they the kind of attack dogs that you see on TV? Or I know the answer to this, but I have to ask, right?
Our dogs, we have the dogs, the same type of dogs as standard police departments across the country. Ours are just, we don't do any kind of bite training or force training like that. All of our dogs are single-purpose explosive detection.
Okay.
So our whole goal here is to make sure that everyone has a safe time when they're out here.
Yep.
So it's one of the nice things about that is a lot of our interactions with the guests are almost entirely positive.
Wonderful.
Because our only job out here is to make sure that people want to keep coming back and they can come back to a safe environment. So.
And you cross-train with other departments, correct?
Yep. So we host a regional training once a quarter, and then we do a lot of stuff with the USPCA, which is the United States Police
They're
Canine
certified.
Association.
Your dogs
Yep.
or your canines are certified.
All of our dogs are certified. It's the same test that the majority of dogs in the state take.
And there's sometimes competitions between us and law enforcement. How do we place in those
We
competitions?
usually win
I'm
those
just curious.
competitions.
I knew it.
Last year, Ellie and I did win our region.
Awesome.
So I'm very, very happy. She's an incredibly skilled dog. So she has a lot of natural talent.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much just guiding her along the path. I don't really have to do very much with her anymore. It's pretty much she just does a lot.
Cool.
So, and I know what Will always says that whenever he asks us who has the best dog, we all say our own dog.
Of course,
But,
right?
They're all liars, and I'm right.
You're right. You're the
So,
right one.
No, I'm just saying so.
Will, we've touched on a couple of the departments, but talk, if you would, a little bit about, I'd love to hear a little bit more about maybe bike officers and some of your patrol. Patrol is your biggest division, correct?
It is.
Talk
Yep.
a little bit about some of the other areas.
Sure. So the patrol officers, like you said, make up the lion's share of the department, but they also respond to the lion's share of calls.
Yeah.
Some of those calls, I mean, and we train them, or we try to train them anyway, for kind of anything and everything that they might see here. That's why the process is so long. What we don't need here is somebody who gets a call and doesn't know how to handle it or has to call somebody else every single time.
Yep.
We need independent thinkers, problem solvers, decision makers to go out there and handle these calls. We don't operate in an observe and report environment here.
Yep.
Right? We need doers. So hence the length of training. But they make up the lion's share of the department. They respond to, as a department, about 84,000 calls for service every single year.
That's
which is
phenomenal.
incredible.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, and it's 1,500 lost kids a year.
Sure. We find all of them.
We do.
Okay.
Find 1,500.
Just want to make sure we're clear on that, right?
That distinction.
How about vehicles?
Vehicles. So we have a bike patrol
Yep.
unit that's dedicated to the exterior of the building. So traditional patrol officer is inside, highly visible, right?
Yep.
Or bike officers, highly visible outside. They're cruising around the ramps, parking lots. They're looking for any suspicious behavior out there. People like maybe breaking into cars, things like that. But as you mentioned, it's about 1,700 people every single year that call us because they think they lost their car.
Yep.
They've not lost their car. They're just parked in the opposite ramp.
I
generally.
love it. Yep.
So, yeah, it's a big area to patrol with, 10, 12,000 parking spaces on property. They have a large responsibility.
Yeah, it's huge. And we have a thing at the mall called Love Moments. We try to do something special for a guest every single day, right? We all try to do this. And I was reading one where it was one of your bike officers who someone was sure that their car was stolen or something from the west ramp I parked on level 3, and I know this has happened more than once. And the bike officer takes their key fob, goes to the ramp on the other side of the building, clicks it until it honks, and went, "Nope, I got your car. Let me go find it," right?
And actually, their job got a lot easier in the last few years with our Park Assist system.
Talk about
because
that.
Because we can look up guests' plates if they know it.
Yep.
Right, we can see exactly where they parked. Which
Awesome.
is incredibly helpful.
Well, and that kind of leads to all of that is kind of held in the brain of the security department, the dispatch unit, right? Where all the camera feeds and everything come in. Talk a little bit about dispatch, if you would, and how they operate.
So they operate similar to what you would think of as like a 911 dispatcher would, where they're monitoring the radios, the phone lines, they're dispatching officers to calls, they're monitoring our extensive camera system, all the life safety stuff comes through there, our lockdown procedures are initiated through there. So if we do have to initiate a lockdown, it's that team that's doing that, and we have a system where it allows us to basically click one button and it initiates a lockdown across the entire building. And I'm talking phone calls, texts, emails, PA tones and announcements through them all. All the digital signage will flip inside and outside. It'll flip all the parking signage like all at once, like right now.
I know your team and IT and digital, a bunch of teams have worked really hard on that. Over the past couple of years, we've really improved all of our processes. Kenny, what do you, as a K9 officer and other officers, do when we trigger a lockdown? What's your role?
Our role is to get guests into safe areas.
Okay.
And to make sure that everyone is clear of any kind of issues that may be happening.
Okay.
So.
Awesome. And now I'm gonna change the tone a little bit, and we've probably missed some areas because you have a big department, and you guys, how many calls a year did you say?
84,000.
84,000. I feel like I want to say 1 million, right? That's a ton. But we've also seen some kind of crazy stuff happen here, right? So there's serious stuff, but there's also there are stories at Mall of America. That's all I'm telling you, right? What's one of the perhaps most unique or strangest things you've had to do, Kenny, while on duty?
I mean, you have stuff like we did the Super Bowl. We've done stuff for presidents and vice presidents and other heads of states from other countries. We've done...
are they like at Macy's, or what are they?
The hotels.
Oh, okay.
We've done stuff
they're
where
here for a real
we've
reason.
had to go through stores and search the inventory of stores because a celebrity wanted to come in and buy the entire store.
Wow.
Essentially.
Okay.
So it's a whole bunch of weird stuff like that. Again, I go back to my dog stealing ice cream from children. Is always a fun story.
Do they take it out of their hand or off of the cone?
Yeah, both of them. They literally just because the little kid came up to pet them. And they're holding the ice cream cone, and they're like petting. Dog's just like, I'll take that.
They don't know any better, right?
I'm out $6. Put it in, and I haven't been reimbursed yet.
Still haven't gotten that check.
I'm waiting for Will to approve
check's
it.
in the mail there, Kenny. That's all I'm saying.
So.
Will, how about you? What's one of the strangest things you've seen here at the mall?
Yeah, we do operate in a very strange and unique environment. So I'll say the Turtle Caper of 2010, I think, was probably one of my most memorable. We had a guest. I had heard a call go out over the radio that a guest had stolen 3 turtles from Sea Life and wouldn't give them back. So I responded to the call with a couple of our patrol officers, and that obviously is not something we generally train for. And so we had to be pretty creative in how we figured it out. I talked about decision makers and problem solvers. We literally, like, backyard football on our hand, drew up the play.
You go
I'm
left,
like,
you go right.
100%. And that was enough to distract the guest who had taken the turtles in order for the Sea Life staff to get the turtles back and put back safely. And then get the guest out of the space. But yeah, that was one of the stranger calls I've been on.
Oh, I love it. So. And the turtles were safe in the end.
They were.
And the guest was safe, and everyone got home for a good night's sleep that night, right?
They did.
So that was a happy ending. So shifting gears again really quickly, we only have a couple minutes left. This has been awesome. We have a lot of celebrities come through. We have everything from TikTokers and YouTubers to movie stars and stuff. I want to hear a celebrity story. Don't get me in trouble here. Whether it's the biggest crowd, the funnest celebrity, something really weird. Kenny, you get to go first.
I would say, like, when I was first starting out, I knew a lot of the celebrities more, but now, like, with the TikTok, I don't know who
these
they
social
are.
media, I don't get it.
I don't get it. So
right?
I mean, like, there's
I'm an
5,000
Instagram
people
person, right?
And it's like parents would be like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, I have no idea. Someone famous is here.
I'll tell you 2 of my fondest event stories back in the day. So I have 2. So I grew up as a child as a big wrestling fan. And when Hulk Hogan came here, it was like surreal.
Awesome.
Him and Jimmy Hart. It was awesome. It was one of the coolest events I ever worked. And then one of my other most memorable was when Tommy Lee came here in 2005. It was actually the last shift I worked before I went to Iraq.
Okay.
It was a Tommy Lee event, so that always stuck with me.
Fun.
Yeah.
We have seen a ton of celebrities here. Celebrities like the ones we know, and now the modern day celebrities, which I don't know most of them either. But they pose some significant challenges for security as well, right? So your team really has to work with operations, events, a bunch of different teams. But just really quickly, we have about a minute left. Talk about the logistics of working when a big celebrity comes in.
Sure, and when a big celebrity comes in, there's a ton of planning that goes into that, and we're not a silo here at the mall, which is one of the things I really enjoy about working in our role. Of course, obviously, I'm passionate about security, but we get to work with every department, literally every department here in the mall. And so there's a ton of collaboration on these big events, and it's not just us, and it's not just them. Everybody has a role in these large events, and so it's getting together and coordinating how we get them from point A to point B, where they're staying, if they want to ride rides even, things like that, because that's pretty common.
And we've had that. We've had a lot of celebrities say, I want security with me. We're going to go into Nickelodeon. We're going to ride rides for an hour.
I have another celebrity story.
Go ahead,
I forgot about my, I rode a roller coaster with Demi Lovato.
I love it.
I get motion sick. That would have been very terrible.
You wouldn't do that? You're done with
I
that? I actually once rode a roller coaster with Ross, the intern from The Tonight Show. When I had first started here, it was hilarious. He laughed the entire time like, and then we got off and he said, do you know you laugh like, so apparently we both were. But you also, our K9 officers, we've also done stuff outside of the walls of the mall, like at sports stadiums and stuff, right?
We did stuff for the Minnesota Twins. We did stuff for the Minnesota Wild. We did some of the Blaine Sports Center up there. We just, when other agencies need help, we just try to make ourselves available and stuff like that. And
that's awesome.
A lot of those things are really fun to do as well, because it's a lot like just kind of watching a Wild game, which is enjoyable.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. And
so
I think the
easy
State
detail.
Fair, we've done the State Fair too,
State
maybe,
Fair a few years,
and I'm a huge State Fair person, so love
all
that.
that kind of stuff. So.
So these have been awesome, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time. And we've just scratched the surface of what your team, and your team within his team, they're incredible. Your officers are so dedicated and so talented and professional. I mean, they hold themselves to the highest standard, and I know you both take great pride in that. We do too as an organization. So we've had a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, but maybe I'll end with Will, if that's all right, Kenny. Sorry, man. But
heartbroken.
Why do you take it so seriously?
I think I take it so seriously because I'm passionate about the work, but I bring my family here, right? I bring my kids here.
Yep.
My coworkers bring their kids here.
Yep.
Right. My friends and neighbors bring their kids here. Right. Yep. That's what drives me, is like that passion to make sure that they're staying safe when they come here.
That's why we do it. For the guests listening today, you can find out more about Mall of America Security and our amazing leadership team and the officers that work with them at mallofamerica.com. Just look for security. There's a great video. There's a video that highlights Kenny and his team as well. These officers train hard, they train constantly, and they are dedicated to protecting everybody that comes in this building. Thanks so much for listening to So Much More. We look forward to seeing you on our next episode, and have a great day, everyone. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of So Much More. If you want to hear more, be sure to subscribe to our podcast wherever you find your favorites, including Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts. And you can also watch a video cast on YouTube. Go to podcast.mallofamerica.com to leave a review, ask a question, or give us an idea for the show. Until next time, thanks for listening. So Much More is presented by the Bloomington Convention and Visitors Bureau, the official destination marketing organization for the city of Bloomington, Minnesota. Before your next trip to Mall of America, visit bloomingtonmn.org for answers to all your travel questions, deals and packages for hotel stays, and so much more.